Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It is Monday. It's March 2nd, start of a new month. This will be our chart lesson for today. Uh, Fairly easy day today. Uh, I was able to find this two-tiered channel really early this morning. I think I had this in place. Really, I got it in place once we made this. You really could get it on this turn right here, which was just after the regular open. If you drew it off these first three and just kind of drug it down. And then once we started getting something going about midway, um, this wasn't real hard to find, in other words. So um, even if you didn't have it in place, you had the channel working up the break, the move to a new high, then it sold off. Uh, you got this one coming down, and then you bounced off this line. That only way I had this was I started up here and I drug it down and it bounced. I mean, to the tick basically. And we tested a couple of more times. The only reason I didn't have this one circled was because that was the first time it touched it, and we really needed it confirmed, which was here. And so I liked going along there. Um, I felt pretty good when it bounced off this midline, to be honest. But once we got a confirmation of this trend line, and that was right here, and then it came back and gave you another chance. So, um, relatively easy day, to be honest. I want to talk about one thing here. Um, a gentleman contacted me about this trend right here, and he said he missed a lot of this move up because he had his trend line drawn just a little bit different. I think he drew his maybe like this, and there's probably a shorter term one there, and then you see the little correction there, and then another one there. But he had his drawn more like that, and so actually I don't think he had it drawn quite that steep. Maybe more. He had a close outside it by a tick here or something. So maybe his was more like uh, I can't draw mine the way he drew it. I mean, that looks too steep. But anyway, he basically had a close outside his line right here by a single tick. Um, and so he stayed away from all the rest of this move up through here. And there's really not a lot of extra moves up through there, to be honest. I circled this one, but I think it's too dangerous to enter here with the highs being right there. Um, if you want to be a little aggressive, you could take it. Um, so it really, it's really right. It's really could be green, but it's right there at the borderline. It's definitely not a blue. So he really didn't have a lot of opportunities to enter anyway, because I don't think you want to enter on any of this up here. But you might have entered some of this coming down instead of looking for the shorts would be the only difference. But I did want to show that because in case somebody else saw it that way, he saw the break here and then he didn't want to take any more trades going up, and he questioned, how do you know? Well, you know, if you get a close here and you only get one tick, closes outside, and everything else looks still real strong, one tick close outside the line, you might just need to adjust your line a little bit. Uh, on the other hand, you might have it right, and it's just not a convincing enough break to convince people that, hey, the move is over. Several different things, but the main thing you got to remember, anytime you're not sure, don't do anything, because that's what leads to losses. If you're just guessing, you're gambling, and if you're gambling, you're going to lose. You want to follow the price action and be, fairly confident that you're reading it properly. And if you're not, then the right move is to do nothing. And then the other thing I told him was, if prices are continually trending up and you're expecting a reversal and you don't get it, then if you get a setup, take it. If you get a failed second, look at this. There's a couple reasons to take this. You got a new low, first entry short, pullback, second entry. So one, there's a failed second entry short there. But then there's a two-legged correction and a second entry long right off the trend line in EMA. And look at it go. So, I mean, if you get a setup like that, don't argue with the price action. Just take it. And that's why this one's blue. And, it's not a great signal bar right there. But this is a great trap. Um, and this is basically a failed second entry short counting off this low here. Um, this one really might even could be green because we got a break of this one coming down in a new low, and we got a double bottom there. And that's that 2100 area where we expect prices to bounce. So really, that one could be green. but so I'm going to go ahead and mark it green. But the key is, if you caught this one, and I probably would use a limit order here, even though it's a nice bullish reversal bar. It didn't break above that one. And you could have gotten filled maybe a tick back here. So you might could have a runner going here and ride this all the way up, at least up to the highs, because originally I had my line right across here because that was the overnight high, and that's where you would expect to find resistance, which you did, but we moved on through that pretty quickly. And then this is just a pull back to test that breakout area. And then we tried to go higher again, but this is a trap. But this is the first real break of this channel, in my opinion, right here. And it's really a two-legged correction. There's two legs in the first leg, and then a little two-legged correction, then a second leg. And if you measure that, there's leg one, and there's leg two, and it's basically missed it by a tick of being a perfect measured move. And then we went up, made the new high, and then we sold off. But it's just a smaller pattern within the bigger pattern of a two-tiered channel, and guess where we bounced? Right off that trend line that you could have had based off of this line right here. That's where I got it from. So, and especially when it bounced here and it fit so perfectly. So this was, in my opinion, this was a much better and much easier day. And the other thing, we didn't really talk about it. I don't think we got anywhere near there. But there's your first leg up, and so once you went higher here, that's your target, and that would have kept you in this thing all the rest of the, you could have got out around 3 o'clock, right at the highs or whatever, however you want to manage it. But that's what I would have been looking for a target. So let's talk about the trades. Back out just a little more here. But this was a nice double bottom reversal here, and you got that little one tick trap that broke lower and reversed, closed on its eye. Just go long there. You might try the limit order. You could have gotten filled on that one at least at the high, maybe even a tick back, depending on. It didn't trade through it, so it would have been, it's hard to say. You may not have gotten filled. And then it pulls back. You get a second entry long right there. But notice how it went right on through the EMA. It doesn't really get any rejection there. That's a good sign. So go with it. And then you get a failed second entry short right there when it turns down. You probably didn't want to go long right there, even though it's a failed second. This is just a one move. It's two legs in it. But you're looking for prices to come back to the trend line, and you get that little two-legged reversal, and it's still the same thing as a failed second entry short, but it's also a second entry long on a two-legged pullback to the trend line, the EMA, everything you want to see. It's not a perfect signal bar, so you might have tried a limit order, but if you did, you probably got left behind on this one. This one took off, and you would have had runners here. Ride this all the way to the top. I don't really think it was wise to enter in here, and this is a second entry long, but you're going long right into 3 attempts, and there's quite a bit of overlap there. I just think it's a little risky. If you took it, it was just a little risky, but it worked. I mean, it's not just a little risky, it's a risky trade, period. So, but it would have worked, and I felt like it was worth talking about, but I really want to talk about it more for why I wouldn't enter there. And it's basically because you got a double top here on a broader base, and then you got a smaller double top, and you got a lot of overlap right here. If this would have broke lower and failed and turned up, then maybe, but even then, I don't think that changes anything there. It was a nice move, but you should have been in from way down here somewhere. And then look at all the overlap here. Pushes to a new high, and then you just go into a trading range there, basically, is what happens. You're getting support here. So there's a second entry long right there, but it's not a very good setup bar. The signal bar is not very good. There's not much room back to where you're getting most of your resistance across there. I think you need to wait on that little trap. It came right here, but even then it's not perfect because there's not a lot of room there. If you took this one, it's aggressive. I would have definitely exited when it got hung up right there or started backing up. As soon as it got hung up right there, I probably on that double top, I probably would have exited that one. I think it's a little risky entering there, even though it looks like one of those traps. It didn't quite go lower than that low, and it didn't close on its high. It didn't go very far. Look how high that one traded. It couldn't even get back up. It could only get to where that one closed. Um, it didn't quite close on its high. All of that flipping back and forth, it could have closed either way. So it's a little tricky. But you might have been tempted to take it. It was real tempting. It might have looked better on or different on your chart. But then when it pulls back and you get the sure breakout and it bounces right off what I suspect to be a midline, now you got plenty of room to get out. It spooked me right there when it backed up. But actually you could enter again there as well. And then when you had the failed second entry short right there, you definitely want in there. And that one took a minute to get going, but it took on off. And so this is one you might even want to add on here. I like adding on right there, to be honest with you. And then guess what? You got your break now. You move to a new high. You got that little failed break higher. It pulls back and it ticks higher, and you get a failed second entry long right there. I like that. Or you get a second entry short off that high. I like that one. And you're looking for the correction. And I'm expecting that prices are coming back to at least here, but probably all the way down here. You don't know they're going to go that fast. You figure it might work its way lower. But you got reasons to want to go short, even though in the big picture, it may feel like a counter trend trade on the smaller micro level here. You've got all your reasons for a fairly nice correction here. And so you can go short there, and then you get a failed second entry long, and then and notice too that notice how it gapped over that right there, and then it pulls back. It opened, or it closed there, and it opened here and moved down. It traded back for just a minute and kind of filled that gap, and then took on off. And then you get a failed second entry long. But notice it's breaking. It gaps over the midline, and then it pulls back and tests it, and then goes lower. But it's also a failed second entry long. Everything you're looking for to try to ride this lower, and that turned out to be a great trade. Just shoot straight down almost. It took this a little bit, but any runners, you ride that all the way to here. And it's tempting to go long there, but the same reason I talked about over here about the one tick. You got to close outside, but it's not by very much. It's just not a very strong, convincing close outside. So, my line just might be off a little bit there, because it could easily be there. And let's just see how that fits now. I drew it before we had as much price action. Maybe it's a little steeper. It probably looks more like that. You can see that's pretty much it. And by that, you don't have a close outside. And so you get your break outside here, and it tries to come back. But guess why it can't make a new low? It can't make a new low because of the main trend line, and it bounces. And so I like going long there because that confirmed you got one touch. There's your second. That's what you draw your trend line off of normally. That's your confirmation. I felt pretty good about it already. I already felt like it was valid. It doesn't mean you can't get a break there, but when it can't close anywhere near that line, people are seeing it and they're buying it. And off it goes. Then you get a failed second entry short here. I didn't like this one as much because look how flat the EMA is getting. Look, it's stacked up 3 or 4 bars, a doji in there. It's just questionable. And so I didn't like if you took it, it worked. It pulled back, but notice how it never broke below there. That's means that you probably were reading it right when you saw it as a failed second. It just didn't fool a lot of people evidently, because they had to bring it back again. And then look how bullish that bar is. And then it even tried to come back. It's like a breakout. This is like a little trading range. It's like a breakout pull back long. But I like going long right there above that bar, and then when it pulls back and heads higher, you might have even thought about entering there, but I think you should have entered back here. You're kind of chasing it if you enter there. I think it still would have worked. If you entered on a stop, it would have been 1050. It worked you got just enough to get out. And then it backs up and it tests this again. I would have been sitting right there with a stop on that reversal bar. You might have wanted to wait for it to test it again and then go higher, but then this doesn't close very high. So if you wait on this bar, then it's a little less obvious and it's a little more risky looking. But I think you were okay if you just put a stop right here on that bar and just when it broke higher go. But once you saw this bar, it, it kind of makes you think, hey, this is looking like congestion. So you might have used a limit order when it broke higher, and you could have gotten filled all the way back to here on that. But it ends up taking off and going on higher. And the reason you're getting that little congestion there is because it's hung between the EMA, it's hung between support and resistance, and one of them is eventually going to win out. And um, the fact that the trend line held, it's obvious which one's going to win out. And that got you into the 2 o'clock hour. You're back up here close to these highs again by 2 o'clock, and there's just not any other entries. But really good day. It wasn't a huge movement day, but it was enough movement, and it was fairly obvious what we were looking at, an uptrend. And even if you didn't see the bigger channel, this one wasn't that hard to find. You get the break, the new high, and then you're moving down. And it might have been a little more, and there's actually a trend line working up through there. I don't even have it on there. But you can see that trend line. And that's another reason to like those trades in there too. But draw your trend lines. Make sure you always draw those, your shorter term ones, because they really help. This really started probably right there. So this one's probably more like that right there, and you get a break and a move higher, and then it corrected. So let's just see how this fits on the other side. Yeah, that's fitting pretty good there. But anyway, that's what I saw today, and hopefully you had a good day. It's like I said, the volatility has slowed a little bit compared to what we had in January. February wasn't quite as well, but we're moving on up into new territory once again, and 2100 tends to be holding now. So will we go higher? We'll just have to see. But no matter what, remember, go back and watch the first part of this video again if you need to. If you're confused on when to, reverse or go long or whatever, on your, following the shorter term trend lines, because I think it's worth watching that part a couple of times just to make sure you get it. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.